All right, I am Pops, and yeah, I've been reviewing movies for a bit. I remember seeing the original Beverly Hills Cop in theaters, and yeah, 40 years later, we're getting another Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F, over on Netflix, continuing the franchise. A film that you didn't know you wanted. I don't know. Let's talk about it. It was kind of interesting seeing this even be announced, and then to find out that it's Netflix only, and then to find out that Netflix wasn't even going to try for a theatrical performance. I don't understand why they wouldn't even throw it out there for $30 million in box office money. Like run it for just one weekend or something. It's a very strange strategy that they do from time to time. The premise is pretty simple. It's typical Axel. He's got shenanigans going on in Detroit. He's in conflict with his chief, which is now Jeffrey. He's been promoted, ready to retire. And he's breaking all the rules, of course. He's legendary, that kind of thing. Then he gets a phone call that his daughter, yes, now a daughter, out in Beverly Hills is in trouble, having some problems. We got to get out there. Rosewood's got issues, and he heads out there, and then that's basically the premise of the film. And for the most part, it's just that simple. It's just what you kind of would expect from the film. Yep. So there he is. There's Axel. Eddie Murphy is Axel. He looks kind of old and fat, and that's coming from a guy who's kind of old and fat. He's calling his daughter Jane from jail. There's the daughter, and she hangs up on him several times because he's been arrested. Blah 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 shenanigans. Well, the shenanigans were pretty ridiculous, right? So there's a scene where he basically has this conflict. He gets shut. He's investigating the Rosewood missing, and there's a shooting. So he gets away by stealing a meter maid's little car. I don't know. It's not even a car. It's like a scooter thing. Then these two lady cops pick him up and squeeze him into this smart car thing, and it's completely nuts. Lady cop maces him. It's all played for just silly gags, and it's just so bad. I was I was miserable. The first part of the movie has Axel in Detroit breaking a case. It ends up at a hockey game. He has this white guy cop that's got him tickets. He's there, and you realize that Axel's not supposed to be on the case. He's pulling all these things. It becomes this big cat. And Axel takes this snowplow and literally like he's like driving through cars. And I thought to myself that part of the appeal of Beverly Hills Cop was the good-hearted cop that's trying to do the right thing. He's caught up at the right place, right time. He's usually a conflict or a problem with the police investigation, not putting civilians at risk and not destroying public property the way he did. And I thought to myself, this was really taking me out of the mood that I wanted to be in from the original. And again, I know the sequels are what they are. Obviously, the first one is kind of the classic, the most rewatchable one, and they kind of go from there. There's a lot of callbacks and homages, and there are some in this film as well. But reality is, it just felt off right from the get go. And having this old age conversations with Jeffrey because Jeffrey's ready to retire. What comes out, he throws himself on the sword because obviously Axel's shenanigans have got him in trouble. And we immediately go out west. We see him fighting with a couple of white guys. He kind of puts on this typical Axel impersonation type stuff. It was okay. It wasn't good or great, but it was fine. It turns into lady cop stuff. And you're like, oh, this is awful. This is just awful. And then most of the film, though, is not interesting. Like it's just, I was actually quite bored. I was an hour into the film. I'm trying to get to the shot of this guy. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt, this plays the other guy in the buddy cop thing you see in the trailer. This is his big helicopter scene near the latter half of the film. All right, if this is remotely funny to you, then it's all been ruined for you. I didn't particularly find it that funny. I thought it was okay. Evidently, he has crashed a helicopter in the past, so therefore he has like a PTSD about flying. Axel's big scheme was to get to the roof and steal this helicopter, and it was all a bunch of contrivances and things like that. But he's Jane's former boyfriend, and he's basically the buddy cop guy. And it's all in the trailer. Like all of this is so overblown in the trailer. Them being together, the helicopter gag, those kinds of things. It happens on later on. We see them again with Rosewood, and this sequence where they're together is literally the very end of the movie. And there is some awkward and funniness, and actually some of the best stuff. Rosewood is he has a brief moment early in the film, and then he shows up at the end, and he's been beat up and tortured, so he looks terrible. Poor Judge Reinhold got the short end of the stick for this gig, man. I tell you what, because Billy is sort of like this great contrast to Axel because he's like, I'll go along with just about anything kind of thing. And there are jokes about that. There's jokes about taking Billy to the strip club, to get a bite to eat or being, I get all that. That it worked so well in the previous films, and nothing like that ever really works here. we don't get Taggart and Rosewood. We don't get Billy and Taggart together until the very end of the movie. It's all about callbacks and fan service. It didn't really even fit the film very much, but then the film is sort of like hindered by the fact that there's just not enough interesting characters. It's sort of like there's not really a villain. It's sort of just corrupt cop syndrome. Um, it just nothing quite works in the film for me. Like everything feels very flat and very forced. So Eddie doesn't really ever go full Axel. He has moments where he does, and then they'll stop the movie, they'll stop the crime fighting, they'll stop the investigation to have this daddy-daughter relationshipy conversations, and literally in sequences. Like they'll be in the car together, they'll talk about the investigation, then they'll talk about each other, and then they'll go back and talk about the invest. It's like it was so. I don't understand why they thought having it put together like this would work. Why you wouldn't just carve out those daddy daughter times for certain moments in the film. An investigation would cause them to bond, and they would maybe see one another in each other. That would cause them to bond, overcome some of their animosity. All of that would have worked so much better in this film. And then the buddy cop thing is so forced on us. It's just the white dude boyfriend. He knows how to get to like the Hispanic guys thing, blah blah blah. And you have this great scene with Luke Guzman, but it's like they go and sit at a booth and they like whisper and act all weird, and it's like it was strange. I don't. It did play for laughs, and that was really the biggest thing with this movie. It just really wasn't that funny to me. And I pulled this trailer up to find some different shots and things like that, and I realized that the big gag was they spent all this money on this helicopter sequence and things like that. This was the snowplow scene. And it's all just kind of intercut. This is exactly the same kind of shots that they had of like the original Beverly Hills Cop with him breaking into Victor Maitland's place, some of the different things. Just nothing really works. And here's our quick shot of Surge, a sequence that just felt like it went on forever. They got Surge. The two pretend they're married. They have this forced kiss moment. Axel's trying to go next door. Of course, he knows that, and it's just, I don't know. This film is just so tedious. I couldn't believe I was an hour in. I couldn't believe it wasn't over yet. There's still so much more to go. It just, I don't know. This is a mess of a film. I'm going to go 2 out of 5 stars, and that's probably on the higher end. If you have high expectations, this feels like a major letdown. If you can really lower your expectations, it'll feel more like a 2.5 star film. You won't be quite as irritated as I was. I just thought they would actually let Eddie be Eddie, and it just didn't feel like that. He just felt like an old version of his former self, and Axel's just kind of the casualty at the moment of what that looks like. So that's my general take on it. Don't know what you guys think, if you watched it or not. Yeah, I'm such a bigger fan of the older films, and just think that this can be redone. I don't think I needed another bad dad film, which is kind of what Axel is. He's just a crappy dad, and there's at least reconciliation in the film. Like, there at least have some, but even then the daughter's like, well, when you're better, call me. And then there's like, he gets, but he's never being cheeky. He's never flirting with other girls. He's never doing things that would be funny or would fit Axel. He just does random things, and I don't think it threads together well. And the investigation and stuff, again, feels very forced because there's only one character that could be behind it all, and you feel like, well, once Taggart and Rosewood are kind of in the scene together, that's when we know we'll be at the end of the movie. That's kind of how it played out. So anyway, that's my take on it. You guys tell me what you guys think. Thanks for watching. I'm Pops.